Great. Well, we are just a minute past the hour, so we'll get started. And just so you all know, I already started recording this session. I'm going to post it in the Women's TMRG handbook afterwards, but really excited that you're all here. So thanks for joining. This is our second kickoff session of the Women at GitLab Mentorship Program. So today we have three awesome panelists that are going to be involved in a short discussion about their experience as mentors and mentees, either at GitLab or in experiences outside of GitLab. And I hope that it's a discussion that kind of gets everyone excited about and like inspired about mentorship and what this program can do for both mentors and mentees involved in the program. But before we get started at the panel, Candace is here, and I'm just going to ask Candace to do a quick welcome. Candace works on the DIB team here at GitLab, and since this program is in part put on by the Women's TMRG, would love to give Candace a few minutes just to say a few things about this program.
Thank you so much for having me, Samantha. And thank you everyone for attending and for those that will listen into this recording later. I think that this is such a powerful moment. If you only knew the work that Samantha had put in as a member of the Women's TMRG and the history behind it, how things got started, conversations with Haley about 2 years ago about different things. And so if only people understood the grassroots and the organic formation of how it all originally came together, it wasn't just a, let's start this up overnight, but this is such a powerful effort, and Samantha's done a great job. And I just wanted to, take a moment to really give you your roses and, your thankfulness of doing this hard work, but also people, again, that people don't know, like Haley and things like that behind the scenes. So great work to everyone. What I just wanted to do is, being that this is the first time that this is going to kick off for GitLab, and it's one of those inaugural things that we'll be able to take, I think it's an opportunity for everyone, mentors, mentees, or people that will be working in allyship for this, to be able to say, how can I contribute to make this better next time? And so as you go through your experiences, as questions are answered here today, I think it's such just an inspirational time to think about, how can I make this best for myself and for someone else? So, thank you again for your hard work, Samantha, and everyone else, and driving this forward and all the conversations behind the scenes, and looking forward to the session.
Great, thanks so much, Candace. That was very kind. I appreciate those words. Great. Okay, so our panelists today, we have three panelists. One is Candace, the other is Helen, and also Haley. And so we have three questions that we're going to talk through together. But before we get to any of those questions, I'd love if each panelist could just take a quick second to introduce yourselves. You can share your name, your role at GitLab, where you're located, and anything else that you would love this group to know about too.
Who's going to go first?
Thanks, Helen.
Did I just volunteer? Okay.
You definitely did.
So I am Helen Mason. I am an area sales manager, and I live in London town, United Kingdom.
Welcome.
Sorry, England. You might have heard we did quite well in football yesterday.
Awesome. I'm Haley Pobans. I'm based in the Netherlands, just outside of Amsterdam. I am currently in enterprise SDR management, so I manage a team of enterprise sales development reps here for the next couple of weeks. And then, what else was it? Oh no, I already said where I was from. I think a fun fact about me was that I have a 2-year-old, and basically my entire pregnancy and life of my son has been at GitLab. So it's been, I think, a major factor and shaped my career development here. And so I think is relevant for this conversation today as well. So that'll be my little fun fact.
I hope that your baby has one of those cute little merge request accepted onesies.
I still have never gotten one, but I'm not complaining. He's almost too big now.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I'm Candace Birdsong-Williams. I lead diversity, inclusion, and belonging here. I'm based in the US, and in particular, the city is Knightdale, North Carolina, extremely southern area, so down south. Trying to think of a fun fact about me. I tend to put on, like many of us, and I think that's a good kickoff probably to the segue of the panel. I'm always typically trying to inspire others and put on a smile, even in the face of adversity. So, fun fact.
I can say that I think you do a great job at that, Candace, personally. So great. Well, thanks all. We can get started with this first question. And then I also just wanted to say we don't have like a specific order of panelists, so feel free to jump in when you feel called to, but also if you don't feel comfortable answering a question, that's totally fine too, and we can move on to the next one. So this first question is, what was your biggest accomplishment, key learning, or takeaway that you've gained from participating in a mentorship relationship?
Shall I go first?
Sure. Beat me to it.
So I did a mentorship. I did the like pilot Women in Sales mentorship program last year, and I was paired with Michael McBride. So I wouldn't say it's so much an accomplishment, but just having one-on-one time with a chief revenue officer and understanding how he works and how he got to where he was just invaluable. And the one really key takeaway from my sessions with him was the kind of operational side of being a chief revenue officer, which I think is often overlooked. Yeah, it was great. Highly recommend it.
We're playing mute, unmute. So
I know, I see it.
So I would say for me, one of the greatest things was back in 2007, I did an mentorship program where I was the mentee in a past experience and walked my way into diversity, a world that I never knew that I would love so much. And the mentor helped me to figure out what my true passion and skill set was. They were able to really say, I've observed you doing this and I've taken note. Have you ever thought about really walking into what looks like a gift? And so if I had to think about that, that's the experience that I would note. And I'm still doing diversity, inclusion, belonging today.
We should have saved Candace for last. So my experience actually is at GitLab, but informal. And I think there's, I was talking to Samantha about this. It was like, oh, I didn't do the formal pilot. Like, she's like, no, it's okay. And I think that's another valuable point is I think GitLab also gives you the opportunity to reach out to someone and say, hey, I'd like to do some mentoring with you. And so I think that alone was a big step for me in terms of I want to learn and grow from not only someone that I think I can learn from, but I think a big takeaway from me was there's a mutual element to it, right? It's not just this is the mentor and they're, big pie in the sky and I'm little me, the ant on the hill. There was a lot of collaboration. And I think that, the biggest accomplishment for me would be helping to best prepare me for my next opportunity, which I will be moving into next month, which is great. And I have to say, because we're all on the call together, that person I did that with was Helen. And I do think that the sharing that she provided and the way we collaborated not only helped me be better at my current job, and maybe she'll stay the same, but also help prepare me for my next role. So it's fantastic.
I think that's such an important point, Haley, about how mentorship doesn't have to be formal. And like this program is like, right, it's like an organized program and you're paired with a mentor and a mentee. But it's interesting that you say that because I took a LinkedIn learning course a few weeks ago about mentorship and being a mentor and being a mentee. And actually one of the things that I had planned for this program was to have like a live session about how to be a good mentor mentee. And after I took that course, it said in one of the lessons was like, companies go wrong when they try to over formalize mentorship. And I was like, that is so right. Like this program is about like mentors and mentees taking it and making it what they want it to be, not like someone telling them how to be a good mentor or mentee. So I think just like your call out about how informal mentorship can be so valuable is really important to think even in like a semi-formal program like this. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next question that I have is kind of maybe the opposite of the first question, but I guess maybe not. It's, what was the biggest challenge that you've faced as a mentor or as a mentee?
I think I'll start this time, because I think I'm going to say one that we all probably think about constantly, but are never really comfortable saying out loud. And it's no fault of anyone, but it's finding the time and making sure to dedicate the time. We're all really busy, and I even debated not doing it because I was like, I'm starting a new role. Is it going to be too much? I want to make sure I can give enough. So I think that challenge, sort of the takeaway from that, is to be kind to yourself and to remove some of the formality of it, because it's going to sort of mold it and shape the way it can. But I think that was the biggest challenge for me, and always is that pressure, like, am I taking on too much? Will I be able to contribute? What did I put in the notes doc? Am I ready for our meeting? And just kind of letting some of that go so that you can just really experience the time. So that I would say was my biggest challenge, and will probably continue to be my biggest challenge. But that's why I think it's important to bring up.
I don't know how to follow that one. I would say my biggest challenge in a mentor-mentee relationship is understanding that both people are there for good intent to help people grow and be their best, but being able to still give constructive feedback as you're learning to get to know someone. It's not always the easiest thing to do, where you feel like you want everyone to feel like everything is great. And so really taking a moment to say, although I am getting to know you, I think this would be helpful. So it's really being courageous in the process of being a mentor and a mentee, I think is one of the challenges. So.
I think one challenge that I think affects most people, but probably women and underrepresented people more, is when imposter syndrome creeps in. I know when I got paired with McBee, I was like, oh my God, you know, CRO is, I'm going to be having a one-on-one with him. He's going to get to know me. And is that a good thing? Like, do I want him to know me? And I think kind of getting past that feeling of being incredibly lucky and thinking, right, okay, how can we both get something out of this? I think is very, very key.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, and I think connects really well with what you were saying, Candace, about being courageous, because I think you have to be courageous to get over imposter syndrome, and then remembering that, like, the mentor has something to get out of it too, even if they're a chief executive. Like, they can learn from you too, and it's two-way. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way relationship. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Helen. Okay, so this last question is, what piece of advice can you share with mentors and mentees in this program?
I would say once you realize your power, you're magical. I say that because, like, I've had several conversations. I use Samantha as an example. I think when you meet with her, there are certain things that you can see and talk when you get to someone's authentic self. And everyone doesn't show up in a way where they feel comfortable at all times. But when you have the right situation, the right element, psychological safety is there. When you realize your power, you start walking in it. And it's hard for that to be taken away. You may have doubts. You may have times where you feel uninspired. But when you have support, even if it's from one person, and you have allyship, and you have people letting you know that you're just great, and here is where you could be even better, I think that's kind of the advice that I would give. Just really lean in to try to take this time to discover anything that you probably didn't know, or move forward with things that you feel like, wow, this is great about me, and I want to really use this and be even better.
I think one tip that I think is really important is whether you're a mentor or a mentee, be open. You'll get much more out of the relationship if you are if you're open about what your goals are, your fears. I know in the last mentoring relationship I had as a mentee, I spent the first 2 sessions thinking, my brain was thinking, I'll say this, no, don't say that. Oh no, you might not come across well. And actually it probably could have got going a little bit quicker. But that's me being, you know, a bit starstruck by someone's job title. So that might just be a me thing. But then like going back to what Hayley was saying earlier, when it's like an informal one, I think it's a little bit easier. Like I could say anything to Hayley and not be judged much. Kidding. And that helps a lot, because you can't grow unless you're completely open about absolutely everything.
Yeah, I think it's kind of tying all of those things together. I think my advice is, of course, knowing your worth in it as well if you're a mentee, and even as a mentor, is that knowing that there's also something I can give. And I think that helps a little bit with that feeling of insecurities or those, you know, the imposter syndrome, which is like, I remember the first time I scheduled, when I had my very first conversation with Helen, our very first unofficial mentor mentee, and I was all paranoid about, did I do an agenda or the notes doc set? And then from then on out, we pretty much just spent a half an hour going back and forth about just how we can improve each other's day-to-day life at work and how we can help each other grow. And then that was like, oh, so you kind of put up a wall of like, okay, I need to be perfect. We need to do these things, Kellen was saying with McBee, and let that down. And whether that means you have a really informal coffee chat first, which I don't know about all of you, but for me, my mentor did that. It was really great for, you know, just kind of taking a breath and have that time. I think that's really valuable.
Thanks for sharing all of that. I think it sounds like, what is resonating with me most, I think, is that building safety with your mentor can make a really great experience if you're able to be open and share and kind of let your guard down and feel like you can do that with your mentor. Then you have the opportunity to really like step into your power, like Candace was saying. So thanks all. Well, we still have a few minutes left, and so I wanted to open up the floor in case there's anyone on the call who has a question that they want to ask any of the panelists, or if they have a question about like program logistics or anything, just like give that chance in case there's anything that needs to be answered.
I have a question. So I know obviously it'd be great to have a coffee chat before you kick things off. Would you go into each meeting with an agenda, or, you know, I mean, obviously I'd like to have a few key ideas of what I'd like to cover off in that call, but would you have a strict agenda that you try and stick to, or would you leave it quite informal in the approach kind of leading up to the call?
I have a thought, but if any of the panelists want to jump in, go ahead.
No, I'll follow yours or someone else. You know, you probably will say what really needs to be said, Sarah.
Yeah, so I would say, I think personally having an agenda for your mentorship programs is helpful. At least when I say agenda, I think I really just mean Google Doc, not necessarily a really formal agenda, but having some place to take notes and tag yourself or your mentor in action items so that you can follow up on things, I think is really helpful. But I really think that it's, when I think about mentorship, I think about them closely, at least at GitLab, to one-on-one meetings, and how they're really driven by the direct report, whoever is in the one-on-one. I think similarly in mentorship relationships, that they're really driven by the mentee, and that the mentee can really decide where the conversation goes. And so I think if you prefer informal conversations where things just kind of come up as you're discussing, then maybe just having a Google Doc for notes is fine. But if you really want, like, okay, I want to talk to my mentor about A, B, and C today because these are on my mind, I would say go for it and have that agenda and share it with them ahead of time so that they can show up prepared to discuss those things as well. I hope that doesn't feel like a non-answer, because I feel like I said both options, but
no, I got it. Thank you.
I think it is really good to have, when you start the mentoring relationship, you have to have like the end in mind. What is your goal of the mentorship program? And then your agenda should follow on from that. You know, like for Hayley and I, it was how can we lift each other up. With my more formal mentoring program, my goal was how do I get into this guy's position in 5 to 10 years. And so your agenda should just be an offshoot of that. So over the time of your mentorship, you eventually have a list of things that will get you to your goal, and you can develop a plan.
And I'll share in the chat too. So part of the iteration from the original Women in Sales mentorship to this iteration was moving from a lot of synchronous sessions to a little bit more asynchronous format with documented mentorship resources. And so I just sent in the chat a section in the handbook that has like before mentorship begins suggestions of things that you can do to prepare. And one of those things is about setting and using SMART goals. And so there's some LinkedIn Learning courses and also some resources from a couple of different universities in the United States that have worksheets and processes that you can use to help set SMART goals and understand like what that SMART acronym means. And so I think perhaps using your agenda, like Helen was saying, to create and share that SMART goal and have it maybe up at the top of the agenda so that every session you're reminding yourself what you're here for and iterating on the goal as you go if it needs to be. So I sent that in the chat, and then that link brings you right to that before the mentorship begins section, but there's a whole section on that page if you scroll up and down with a lot of resources for mentors and mentees.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We have just about 2 minutes left. Is there any other questions before we close things out? Great. Well, if you have questions that come up later on, you can feel free to add them in this meeting document, or you can post them in our Women at GitLab Mentorship Slack channel. And just wanted to say thank you to the panelists for being here. I think that mentorship is a really personal thing and can feel like you're opening up a lot. And so I appreciate you all sharing your experiences with this group. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your day and week.
You too. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.